wait till it's too late. Don't wait till it's too late.
Don't wait until it's too late.
Our next speaker for today is Peter Asmus, who's a renewable energy consultant and just wrote a book called Energy 101. He's going to tell us about what we're doing locally and local volts, right? Okay, Peter, come on.
I started writing about global climate change 20 years ago in my first book, and the good news is that people are now finally taking it for real. Of course, the bad news is that all the computer modeling, everyone was worried we're too conservative, and it seems like it's the opposite problem. But I wanted to talk a little bit. I've been writing about renewable energy or energy for over 20 years, like I said, and lately I've been thinking about this concept that Bing just mentioned. You know, we have the locavore movement here in West Marin, very big, eating locally. And a friend of mine named Ty Cashman, who was in the Jerry Brown administration, came up with the term locovolts. And the concept to me means we really should be generating our power locally first. Whatever is the indigenous resource, we should really tap that first instead of sort of the opposite way around. The whole system is now set up for fossil fuels, imported electricity, etc. And it's hard to squeeze in the small stuff under the current rules and regulations. It's starting to happen, but if we're really going to tackle climate change, we're going to have to do a lot more. And so the locavolt movement is really well represented here in West Marin. I've been working on trying to get some funding out here to expand what Jerry Lunsford did right here, something with the Dance Palace right now. If the grid goes down, most of the solar arrays here in West Marin can't operate, including this one right up here. Most of them are grid tied, they don't have a battery backup, and so when we need these resources the most, they're unavailable to us, for the most part. But what Jerry did at the Dance Palace is he figured out what were his vital needs. We don't need all of our gizmos in time of emergency. We just need the basic functions. And so for Jerry, that meant a sound system, among other things, because I think the grid went down in the middle of a concert, and he was going, wow, what do I do in this situation? I don't want to burn fossil fuels like most people would. He wanted to run it off solar energy. But what I'd like to do is expand that concept to what's called a microgrid, where all of Point Reyes could become an island of solar, wind, and biogas. Import the biogas from Strauss Dairy, import the wind from Devil's Gulch and from McAvoy, and have a renewably based emergency microgrid system. And you could sort of build these islands all over West Marin. You could go in the developing world, instead of building the big grid with all the transmission infrastructure, you could start with this model, and it would be like the internet. You'd be linking up these little islands and pools of renewable energy. I'm glad Steve mentioned wind power. I wrote a book on wind power, and I sit on the committee that's been trying to get some guidelines in place. They have not been in place for 3 or 4 years, so I'm glad to hear that we'll actually have some guidance. I'm a bird watcher, so I'm concerned about birds and other issues as well, but it's true that the small individual wind turbines we'd be installing on ranches would really not have a major impact on the birds. In fact, statistics show it's the same percentage of a bird running into your glass window or your house. So we have to educate ourselves about these renewables. If we are to localize, we have to take more responsibility for helping to site the renewable systems that make sense. Now, there are places where it won't make sense, but we have to get a more enlightened approach. California here, we have all these great aggressive rules on renewable energy. In my book, we point out that in the 90s, we had 90% of the world's wind power, 90% of the world's solar power, 90% of the world's geothermal power, and 90% of the world's biomass power. Right now, California has less than 3% of the world's wind power. What happened is we stood still, and the rest of the world caught up to us. So I'm hoping that we can help California regain some momentum and really show the world how to do renewable energy right, starting right here in West Marin. Yes, so thank you. So 20 years ago, I was also involved, one last thing I'll say, when I played music here earlier, I have a band called Space Debris, and we started out with energy issues, and some of our first concerts 20 years ago were solar-powered concerts on the state capitol steps, and we helped close the Rancho Seco nuclear power plant. And there, Sacramento replaced the nuclear power with solar, wind, energy efficiency, and other sources. So that's sort of a model that has guided me is local control. So let's think about local volts, and let's all try to become a local vote. So thank you. Thank you.